Excuse me. Alright, I've been trying to get this done for some time now. Actually did one and found out that I had my GoPro set on snap a picture, so I got a nice photo of the log splitter here. This is just a quick walk around on my log splitter, which is how I process my wood. And mind you, I have tree service wood. I don't have logging wood. A regular processor doesn't really make sense for me. I'm running a huge chipper, so I don't have a lot of small stuff that readily splits through a regular processor. And I have to deal with a lot of very large diameter. You see over here that pine log over there, it's furnace wood, but that thing's like 30 inches in diameter. There's an oak log in here that's 34. There's another one in the back that's 38. So I need something that can manage really large wood and make it as easy on me as possible. It's a pretty rudimentary setup. I started with I had an old Timberking. I don't have any still photos of it. It's an old Timberking log splitter that I bought for, I want to say $300 in 1994. Had an old Briggs 8 on it, and I ran that for a couple of years as the Timberking before I started modifying it. The Briggs gave it up. I put a Wisconsin Robin on it, and that Wisconsin Robin lasted me 22 years, and it just blew while I was modifying this, so I ended up grabbing a real cheap used Briggs 8 until I get through with the prototype. Then we're going back to either a Robin or like a GX 340, right? I think that's what it is. Honda. Anyway, let's give you a once over on the whole thing, and it's pretty simple. On the original Timberking, this was the axle, which is my hydraulic tank. It's about 3.5 gallons. It's not huge, but it works well. It's the original equipment. All I did was I detached the beam, which is this right here, and built a trailer unit for this whole thing. The wheels, I used tandem so it's stable. I got them for $100 with the tires on them, on like Facebook Marketplace, and they're just from a mobile home. They have the offset axles, which is great because it rides very nicely. And I built the frame. This large funneling area was from the original modification I did to the Timberking, and it was on here. This is a boat trailer, and this was experimental with hay elevators from many years ago, which it was also very successful with a center flight hay elevator that was 50 feet long. We just put a huge hopper on it. Every now and then you'd have to hit the wood and make sure that it went in, but all in all it worked well. The piston pushes the wood through and advances the wood onto the conveyor. There we go. And that's all very nice. It works very well, but in order to keep it going straight this long distance, and there is this long distance for a reason, I have these two pieces of angle iron welded on here, and it keeps the bottom ones pushing straight out onto the conveyor. Now the reason it's this large is because of how large the wood I have to split sometimes is. And this affords me the opportunity to take up to a 40-inch log, put it on here with one person. It'll split it in half and split the bottom two pieces off, and the log will stay up on the table. This one gets turned sideways. This one gets turned sideways. The two smaller pieces underneath the four-way, if the four-way is on there, gets split, or the one gets closest to you gets quartered, and through the machine it goes. Then you pull that one in. Never falls off, never touches the ground. It's a great setup. This, let's just flip this on for 1 second. This is my stroke limiter. all it does is come back. We'll do a whole other video on that. It goes in here, it changes it from 24 inches to 16 inches splitting. All it does is come back at the bottom of the lever. Now I don't use a detent valve because in my experience the detent valve, it's hard to set a stroke limiter on. I've seen people who have collars and they've ripped the heads off their pistons. They put collars on it when it pushes against here and do all sorts of damage. This is a great, simple mechanical way. We'll do another video on it. And to return, instead of a detent, I just use this rubber, real rubber, American made bungee, not that bullshit synthetic rubber. And like I said, we're in a prototype, so it's held on by this very fancy piece of coat hanger. This is large diameter fire hose. This is a smaller fire hose. These are just put here as chafing gear to keep the piston from getting chewed up along the metal. And as you see, that'll return it. When this returns, it'll push it back. Here, this will push it back at 24 inches. And with this on, which I'm doing 16-inch wood now, this will push it back and give me just shy of 18 inches in the throat. And that's from stroke. It's just shy of an 18-inch stroke because the stroke of the piston only comes to here. All right, this is a 4-way wedge, homemade, up and down. Again, we'll do another video on that. Super simple to make, very easy. You don't even really need welding skills, which I don't have. You just need to turn the welder up all the way. Single wedge. My wedge had to be rebuilt several times. This is snowplow cutting edges, 2 back to back, then 2 with the angled face onto the beam. It's pretty self-explanatory. And across here, and to prevent water buildup, it's got a hole down here so it never gets ice and then it expands. And to keep it from tearing up my beam, that is sitting on a 5/8 plate, and that thing is welded in there, so I don't mangle my beam if there's too much pressure on it, ripping it off. That is not my original piston. My original piston only had a, what was it, 1.5 inch push rod on it. That comes from Rugged Made. I'm very happy with it. Still 4-inch diameter. However, I got it with a 2-inch, right, 2.25 inch rod on it. Now that saves you time on your return stroke, and a lot of people don't realize that waiting for your piston, how much time you spend. And that is also the reason why I put in the stroke limiter, to increase my stroke when I'm working with shorter logs. Again, the wood gets forwarded by the piston. This is my fabric cobbled conveyor for this because I wanted to put it on here, and I just kind of did it to fit. It's set up, it works well. I could be a little happier with it. I might change a little bit on it, but I like the way it is now. I drop off at 7 feet. I can get a trailer underneath it. I can get a pickup underneath it. I might add a couple of feet to it so I can get a dump truck underneath it. But I really do 1-cord loads, and I don't do tremendous amounts. I do maybe 100 cords a year I'll be doing next year. And again, it's all oddball stuff. It's more of not paying to dump it. On the infeed, this is on a slight angle downward, but we have bars. It gets rid of a lot of the little shaky stuff like this through there. I could have done better on that. I'm happy with it. This is in a fixed position. It is my intention to put legs on this as well, so that it can be lifted up a couple of more degrees to elevate that. As it stands now, these just pull out, and you can lay it flat, and that's important because I do have a larger elevator, and I always wanted to be able to, without taking this off, if you pull the bottom pin out and lay this down, that leg will lay on the ground. This will be almost flat. We could dump it. I can dump it into a larger conveyor and stockpile wood. The chain is from a hay grain elevator and a hay elevator. It's 2 different chains. These little flights are from the hay grain elevator cut down to 4 inches. They were 9 inches, and they were a little bit weak for pushing wood, so I just cut them shorter, so if they bend, who cares. These were welded on. I made these out of angle iron. I think that's like 3/16, maybe 1/8 inch, I don't know, but it's a little bit heavier so that they fit the trough a little better. And it also has, you see the sections of hay elevator here where it just has hay spikes from a center rail, center chain skeleton elevator, and that's just stuff that I've had for years. It's geared down to run at about 1 foot a second at idle with the Honda here. Again, this is another great Facebook Marketplace find. It's like $70. The only problem is it's fixed speed, but it is a Honda 5 horsepower overhead cam engine. They run great if you've ever had one. It runs great. It's a fixed idle as far as I know, unless it's under load, and I want this to run at idle. I want it to run as slow as possible. It's geared down to, like, I want to say that it's 8 to 1 here, and then 10 excuse me, 10 to 1 on the chain. Now, to reduce the idle, I just pushed this in. This is like the idle spring. I just bent that in until I got it where I wanted, and I'm running at about 1.5 feet a second, which is real nice and slow. This doesn't need to move fast. You're not producing wood that fast. The less it turns, the less wear on everything, you know. And this whole thing was just cobbled together. I have old, larger conveyor ball bearings in there, pillow block bearings top and bottom there. I just have an adjuster from an old conveyor. We'll do a little bit more in depth up on the top to adjust it. Had some tube steel, welded it together. These are like radiator covers from a commercial radiator. I just cut up the steel using whatever I had to see if the prototype would work. Comes out pretty good so far. I used a piece of wood here to mount this. I'm sure somebody's going to notice that. It dampens vibration. It was temporary to see where everything fit. I absolutely love it. Used a little bit of waste oil on it. Works great. As far as the center trough for the conveyor, that is a piece of ash, and it's got a trough cut in the middle of it for the chain, so everything runs down low and stays centered. I do use waste oil. I get like a whatchamacallit, a Sriracha bottle with waste oil in it, and every now, maybe once a week or so, I just drizzle a little bit on there. It collects sawdust. It keeps everything well lubricated, and that's to prolong the life of not only the chain, but the cogs. And again, running at a lower RPM makes a great difference in regard to wear. And that's basically it in a nutshell. It tows like a champ. It is long. It does, however, give me the opportunity, because of the way it's set up, to, if I felt like it, which I kind of feel like it these days, oddly enough, at my age, I can bring this on site. I got to put new lights on it. I can bring it on site and split wood for people, and it actually puts me in a place where I can make a reasonable dollar doing that if I have nothing else to do. And you know, keeping working is important these days. Keeping the money flowing is important these days, and it gets a little harder, so the more opportunities you have, the better. These lights were put on here when I was moving this around from my house to a shop in the plant. Oh, rear foot, simple rear foot, fence post, piece of steel foot, pinholes to pick it up, and that's so that you jack it up if it doesn't. It takes vibration and motion out of the whole machine while you're operating. You do have to remember to pull it up when you're towing. Sorry about that. But these lights were put up here originally because I kept walking into them. They're on this is bed angle iron. This is like a bed frame. But I got to tell you something. Other than this, okay, which chews up bulbs while it's running, I like them here. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm just going to run a little piece of small angle down on, you know, as a kicker to keep this from vibrating so much. And I am going to put the lights up there. I also am going to make a light that clips on, and I'll just have a place on one of those to clip it on, that when I'm traveling I can hang it from here, maybe a couple of loops, a couple of dog clips as a brake light, so that, or a running light actually, and brake light, so that this is illuminated when I'm going down the highway. That's it. The only other thing that Well, and like I said, I'll do. I was going to do it while I was building it, but it turned into such an editing nightmare. So I just do an overview, and then I'll do the conveyor one bit at a time. I'll do the splitter one bit at a time, and then I'll do the little features. I'll do a once over on the homemade 4-split and the stroke limiter. These two holes right here, in case you were curious, is how when the stroke limiter is out, just slides right in there. But that's it in a nutshell. Works great. I'll just shoot a short video of me doing like 10 logs so you could see all the ups and downs of this conveyor system, because there is one of the downs is that every now and then a little tiny piece will get underneath a paddle. It'll jam it up there and throw it off, so you got to fix that. And that happens like once every 5 cords, and every now and then a very thin piece will fall down in here, which I don't have enough room to do how I want to do it. Well, maybe I do. Maybe a piece of a conveyor belt. But what happens is it goes underneath the side of one of the paddles as it's coming around. And as the paddle comes around and it gets underneath the paddle, it chocks it. But that's why you have belts on these, and the belt isn't super tight, so the belt will just spin. And that's important. And anyway, that's that. Next video, I'll post a little video of everything running. And we'll take it from there. And yes, when you're done at the end of the day, you have to clear this hopper manually, which, considering that you don't touch any of the wood coming over it, it's really not too bad. Thanks for watching.